Do you remember when I created my KTube isn't timeless video and then I re-recorded it? Well, to be fair, I kind of revamped it entirely because it is an hour long, but you get what I mean. Um, the point is, the reason why I brought this up is because this video is kind of a sibling to those videos because this kind of comes from the same place that those videos came from, and I don't really know what place, but I guess maybe a level of reflection that comes from a little bit of an insecure place. I don't know. I don't think I can describe it all that well, but that is the best way I can describe it. And, you know, I often think about the idea of me being unique. And I do believe that there's different variations and different versions of being unique. I think I think what I want to be is when I create videos and I post them, I want to be profoundly unique. I want to sound intelligent. I want to sound thoughtful. I want to sound like I am a person who views things in depth and finds nuance and engages in critical thought and is quite analytical and is able to just dig deep into the content that is being presented to the audience, you know. And I often think about how I want to be someone who inspires people to think and inspires people to think about art in a different way. And, I'm no expert in art. My degree that I'm working on has nothing to do with art, but I am a writer and I do love to create. And I kind of want to invoke people and I want to create an environment of critical thought and analysis in my community and in my videos. And, I want to be someone who invokes the idea that, wow, I have never thought about a topic this way until you brought it up and you phrased it this way. Sometimes I kind of crave for people to look at my thoughts and think about my thoughts in that way, that I created some original thought, that I created an original idea that potentially someone has never thought of before, because I do think being profoundly unique is something I yearn to be and I strive to be quite intensely. And I often think about it, and I often think that I feel like I'm not doing enough to be profound, and I'm not doing enough to create something that is thoughtful and meaningful because I feel like I feel like I've been more direct in my writing and how I write my scripts. And I don't really feel like I am very artful right now. And it makes me feel like it reduces my ability to be profound. And I often think, is my direct commentary actually worth anything? And am I actually doing anything without my metaphors, without my paintbrush that is my pen that I use to write my scripts? Um, it, am I really creating a thought-provoking piece of media or art when I post my works, my videos? I mean, am I really doing anything? Because I often think about my place in KTube, and I feel like I wanted to be kind of seen as the writer, the person that writes long scripts and just loves to just talk about that very script and that very video. And, I know that my videos aren't the most well edited and I don't have the greatest mic. It's been a year since I started doing voiceover, and you would think that maybe I would have invested in a mic to make myself look better, and you would think that my long breaks would mean that I was practicing editing, but I'm not. I'm not, and I don't have good audio, but I like to think that even with my flaws in terms of editing and, you know, voicing over my work, I do believe that maybe I stand out by being a little bit homemade, not being the most professional sounding, maybe not even like being the most, I don't know, curated and the most, I don't know, the most stylistic creator that you've seen. And there's like a homemade touch to it, and there's a level of rawness that you see when I post my videos that I am not a great creator. I'm not a great editor. I try my best, and unfortunately, it doesn't show through in my editing. And maybe my lack of being good at something is profoundly unique. I don't know. Again, that argument only lies within the audience, and I don't know if you think my audio, my aesthetics, the way I present my videos is profoundly unique, but because I don't think so. I think it's a lack of being able to sharpen talent, but I don't even think I'm talented in the field of editing, but like I guess the right word would be skill. Um, you know, I feel like I'm losing what I was trying to say here. Um, Let me think about what I was gonna say. Okay, so I'm back. I have my point. I guess my point was that I want to be profoundly unique, but I do fear the idea of I want to be unique, but I don't want to be unique in a way where I feel isolated. Because, I often think about the roots of being unique, right? Does being unique come from not being part of the binary standards that are created by society? Is my yearning to be profoundly unique because um comes from the fact that I'm a woman and there is so much expected from me from the patriarchy, and there's so much expectations from women that like my my yearning to be profoundly unique comes from trying to fight the patriarchy, but yet the patriarchy constantly beats down women, and it's constantly we're constantly never good enough for any standard or measure that is placed in front of us, you know? Um, you know, Back to the idea of is being unique coming from the idea that someone might not fit into the binary standards of sexuality, gender, um, um, race, ethnicity. Like, does being unique come from a level of trying to potentially stand out from the binaries that were created by society? Or maybe being unique, it was kind of potentially a backhanded way to tell someone that they are against the grain of the standards that were set in place by those who are of a majority group, you know. But, maybe I'm thinking too hard about the concept of being unique and its relationship to oppression. And I don't know, I don't think I'm thinking too hard. I don't know if my train of thought is totally in the wrong place. But, if you want to engage in this like discussion, totally feel free to comment on this. But, that being said, I guess my fear with being unique is that I don't want to be unique in isolation. Meaning, I don't want to think of an insane thought and it's like profoundly like evil because, humans think of crazy thoughts, right? Like, I don't want to think of a uniquely evil thought that is like, that has never been thought before. That's scary. Like, but I guess you can't pick and choose being unique, right? I think, like, the idea of wanting to be profound and then at the same time thinking of, like, something that is, like, truly scary and, like, you're the only one who has ever thought of it. I think that's just I think that's just a very complicated conversation, and it makes it really scary to think about, like, the idea of being solely the most unique person and thinking of an original thought, because not all original thoughts are very, good. They're not positive, they're not thoughtful, sometimes it can be just downright diabolical, right? So I guess like the idea of being unique is I think it's a very nuanced experience. The idea of having um thoughts and trying to be original can be a lot more nuanced because being the inventor of something is not always a positive thing. So the main title of this video is Are You Even Unique? And this title is kind of provoking because it questions how special you are, how special you are in the context of your environment. And this is not meant to be like a mean thing to accuse you of not being unique or special or talented or perfect in your own way. This is a question about the idea of us being unique in general, because I often question this about myself. And, I guess a question is what makes me unique if the thoughts that I want to think critically and thoughtfully about have already been researched about, have been expressed, and even articulated much more effectively than I will ever have. If I try to be, I don't know, if I try to be deep, if I try to be uniquely profound, and it's already been done before by generations and generations of people before me, how does that make me unique? And is my yearning for depth and being profound really that genuine you know, if the idea is that I'm constantly thinking about being more deep, for example, right? Being more profound, if I'm constantly looking to do that, am I really genuinely doing that? Because first, I do want to address that I think it's important to want to be those things, right? There's that ambition. But what if ambition turns into obsession? Does obsession really have any genuine feelings towards its subject, right? Does that obsession become and remain genuine? Um, does that want become any more I don't know. Does it become any more authentic? I don't think so. I think when you become obsessed with the idea of being profound and deep, I think you kind of lose the true meaning of being profound and wanting to have critical thought and to be thoughtful with whatever you're talking about when you become obsessed because it almost feels like you're just trying to reach your goal and you're not actually respecting the process or the subject at hand. It's almost like um it's almost like you're trying to curate an image of trying to look profound and eventually being profound relies in being of wanting to be humble, to learn humility, to be able to learn. And obsession kind of clouds the mind. So, I'm worried that, like, the idea of being, I don't know if I'm making any sense, um, but like, the ambition to be profound and to be thoughtful is important. But there's also the importance of understanding that the idea of being uniquely profound cannot be an obsession, because I think that's when it becomes ingenuine, because you're just focused on a target. You're not focused on respecting the target. You're not focused on even like approaching the target in a genuine way. And I feel like the target is like crazy because like I'm thinking about like I know it's weird, but like Obsession, and I'm like thinking about the movie. I've not watched it, but like I understand the premise. But then I'm also like thinking about like stalking and stuff. So like when I hear like the words obsession, obviously like stalking has a huge connection with obsession, but like that's why I'm using the word respect and all, but like you know, I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. Like if I feel like I make sense. I feel like I'm making sense. Like obsession becomes ingenuine because then it's just like you want to possess something, and you cannot just possess being profound, and you cannot just possess that. You need to work at it. You need to learn. You need to gain humility, right? So I that's what I'm getting at. Hopefully that makes sense. So back to the video title itself being, are we even unique? And, from the words alone, the sentence itself sounds very simple because it's a very simple yes. Everyone is unique. Everyone is special in their own way. But also, I do believe that it can get quickly very philosophical and very deep, because I do believe that like even though original thought, I think that's a very interesting concept. And, everything has been done before. You can argue and artistically, things, there's only so much creativity you can have until like things start to have crossover, right? Um, but I do believe that just because a concept has been done by multiple people, or a style of art has been created by multiple people, I do believe that there is uniqueness. And I do believe that just because the thought and the concept is not original, that doesn't mean that there can't be a level of uniqueness, right? Sometimes your fingerprint is the thing that makes you unique. Sometimes it's very much um, the way you draw someone's dress, the way you draw an eye, right? The way you do things is going to be different. And yet, maybe it's going to be, maybe there could be similarities to another person, but the fact that you have a different way of doing things, and the way you present things, and the way your process occurs when you're doing your art, whether that is drawing, producing music, or even like writing a book, right? We all have nuances that make us different. And the idea that, yeah, we might not all have original thoughts, and maybe any thought that I have thought might be in depth, maybe provides the idea and the room for critical thought, and maybe it's a very profound thought, but maybe it's not original at all. And I guess I'm okay with that. I feel like I'm kind of getting used to the idea that maybe I might not ever have something that is uniquely mine, a thought that is uniquely mine, but I do believe that the way I present it, maybe the way I tell you my thought, would be quite different. And maybe it's not. Maybe the most unique thing about my thought is that I said it. And I think that's okay. Um, and I think that me being unique doesn't have to make me strive to be something that is uniquely not me. And I think that is the beauty of understanding that um that you are unique in your own way, and trying to be profound in a way that is not authentic to you doesn't really make it profound. And, it's a disservice to you, and it's a disservice to your future self and your past self. So that being said, I think I want to stop the video here because I do believe that I think it's getting a little bit long and I don't really have anything to add. So, thank you for watching, and, you know, I know I've not posted in a while, but, yeah, I'm so sorry. But thank you for watching this video. It means a lot to me, and I don't know how to end. This is so awkward. Anyway, bye.